Behind me is the River Tweed. It's a fairly standard natural river border, just one of many rivers dividing countries across the world. And for centuries, this river has divided Scotland on the northern banks from England on the south. But if you look closely at a map, you'll see a strange and small patch of land that's on the English side, but that for no clear reason isn't actually part of England. For thousands of years, different peoples fought for this land until the nations of Scotland and England emerged from their Dark Age creation. Then, for centuries, the border ebbed and flowed, and Scotland's capital, Edinburgh, was among the most besieged cities in the world, while border reivers fought each other, even while the two kingdoms were at peace. Towns like Berwick-upon-Tweed would be annexed by both sides countless times over the course of great battles and conquests, but with time, the Anglo-Scottish border settled on the Tweed. This is the Bog Green, a fairly unremarkable and small Scottish meadow, surrounded on three sides by English countryside and the natural border of the Tweed. It serves no real discernible purpose and it's only accessible by land from England. So it begs the question, why does Scotland own it?
Medieval times saw fierce battles take place over these lands, and important towns like Berwick-upon-Tweed nearby would be annexed by both sides countless times over the course of great conquests for either side.
But while Berwick served as an important trade and market hub and a strategic position from which to base and muster armies, the Bog Green remained throughout history, as it does to us today, pretty much just an empty field. This strange anomaly on the Scottish-English border, though, was not the prize of some great military conquest, no, but rather, possibly, a sporting one. We think of the first international football match being between Scotland and England in 1872, a 0-0 draw played in Glasgow, but in reality, it was a long time before this.
It's said that hundreds of years ago, men of Coldstream, a village on the Scottish side of the Tweed, would meet with men from the village of Wark in England to play a no-holds-barred game of mob football. It was long before established rules, with games more akin to a massive organised scrap, with the simple objective of getting a ball in a goal. That's something we might think we would recognise from a run-of-the-mill Glasgow derby, but in reality it was much different and much more brutal. An unlimited number of players in opposing teams would clash in a mass of people struggling to drag an inflated pig's bladder by any means possible to a marker at each end of the town. This game on the border was said to take place every year, with the prize being this field, the Bog Green.
Long before modern rules and tactics, the game would essentially boil down to just numbers. And unable to compete with the larger population of the growing town of Coldstream, more often than not, the men of Wark would lose.
And so for hundreds of years, despite border treaties, multiple wars and an act of union, this piece of what should probably be England has remained under the ownership of Scotland.
Nations are the stories that we tell each other that are often tied to the land. Stories of the collective achievements that we make that shape our culture and our borders, whether that be through war or through sport.
If you were to ask a group of Scots what our national team's greatest moments were, you'd get loads of answers ranging from World Cups to wins at Wembley, James McFadden's goal in Paris.
Oh, Scotland go for an effort again! He's done it again! James McFadden scores for Scotland!
Or even Maradona's Hand of God. But none would say the Bog Green. That's maybe because it's a story lost to history, or it's maybe even just a lot of nonsense. But if it is true, it represents a great footballing achievement, even if it isn't from the game we recognise today, and a massive formative piece of folklore in the development of the game that we know and love now.
England might have a trophy won by a couple of dodgy goals in a World Cup final, but we've got something much better. A bit of their land that they're not getting back. And if we're lucky, maybe Steve Clarke will bring us back Berwick.